I'm James Mayfield Smith. I'm a breakthrough coach with breakthroughcircle.com, transformationcircle.com. So I do a lot of these webinars. A few of you know me and have been on my webinars before. And I am absolutely pleased to be hosting John Lee, who is my mentor. He's also a pioneer of the self-help movement of working with anger and codependence and recovery and relationships and men's work. John trains therapists on how to work with clients and also on how to work with themselves. As my mentor, he's had a big influence on my own work as a breakthrough coach, and he has influenced thousands of people in the country. He is very well regarded and well thought of. So I really appreciate that you've taken your time to come on and work with him. I'm your host today, so I'm going to be hosting, but John is going to be doing, the majority of the teaching. I will let you know this is an interactive webinar, so at one point we're going to put you into a breakout room with one other person, and you'll get to have a conversation about why you're here, and I'll kind of give you instructions about that before we get there. So I also want to introduce Casey Bushnell. Where's Casey? She was here a minute ago. There she is. And Casey, if you can unmute yourself. The reason I want to introduce Casey is because she is bringing John into Lawrence, the Kansas City area, where he's going to be doing a workshop on January 1st from noon to 6 p.m. on this exact same topic. So if this topic interests you, or if you know anyone specifically who might be interested in getting to meet John and work with him, then you might want to invite them to that webinar. Anybody who's on here, we're going to do our best to make sure that we get a hold of you and send you the information so that you know about it on Facebook. Casey, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Just, I'm super excited, and this is so cool.
Yes, it is.
It's like all of this stuff is coming together, and it's all part of, I guess, the plan of the divine. So thank you, John, so much. Thank you, James.
You're welcome, hon. Thank you for all the time and effort you've put into this, me coming. And James, before we even start, thank you for all this support and kindness. And then I only have one question, James, and that is, do I have to do anything now on my...
In just a moment, you don't have to do anything with, I'm handling all of the host controls. All you're going to have to do is, in a moment, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit more, and I'm going to ask you a few questions and then kind of let you share with us about this topic about depression and anxiety and despair and fear and kind of your new thinking and your new work and how that works. So if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this work.
Well, I got into it through desperation for myself. I've written 23 books so far, and every book that I've written has birthed itself by me working on whatever I end up writing about. That I'm not an academic. I teach college off and on, but I'm up here in my mountain home that I bought 25 years ago in Mentone. I live in Austin part-time and here part-time. I'm getting old. I've been doing this work for 35 years, and I can't believe for a moment that I've been doing it for 35 years. I wrote my first, well, I guess it's 32 years. I wrote my first book when I was 33, The Flying Boy, Healing the Wounded Man. And I thought, okay, maybe it'll sell, maybe it won't. And then if it doesn't, I'll just go back to teaching college. And it sold like hotcakes, thanks in large part to Oprah having me on several times. But that's about it for me. I mean, just old John up here in the mountains.
Well, John, one of the things I've always appreciated about you is your humility and the way in which you share, as a breakthrough coach or transformation coach, there's a fine line to walk between saying, hey, I know something about this, and being humble about, hey, and I'm just on the path too, doing the best that I can. And I think you walk that line very beautifully.
Well, thank you. Thank you. My dad asked me one time, he said, what do you do for a living exactly? And I said, well, it's kind of hard to explain, but I said, I write books and go out and give talks and workshops. He said, John, every one of your books that I've read, all you do is talk about how you failed at something. and then you tell the story about how you failed and what you learned after you failed. And he said, do people really come to your workshops knowing that you failed at being a codependent or adult child of an alcoholic? And I go, yeah, America's great that way. If I was in Russia, they would take me out and shoot me, But, so I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Excellent. Well, so the topic here, this is interesting. I was sharing with you how just last night I was working with my men's group, and this topic came up, and we worked with it using some of your tools. If you can just tell us a little about depression and anxiety and what you have learned about that, and kind of some of a new approach that you have of how to work with that with people who are suffering.
Okay, I'll do it by telling a story, short story, very short, and by reading a very short poem, and that'll sort of hopefully open it up a little bit. So about 4 years ago, Robert Bly and I were doing a men's conference at his 32 years in a row men's conference in Minnesota. And I just had started working on this material. Now I've been working on this book for 3 years. And I began the scratching around it at about 4. So I gave an introductory talk, 45-minute talk at Robert's event on depression versus despair. And at the end of the talk, a man in the back corner was sobbing his eyes out. And I said, sir, you've got to share with the group, why are you crying? What have I said that has made you cry? And he said, well, when I get home, I've got to make amends to my wife because for 25 years, I've been pushing her, prodding her, berating her to deal with her depression. And every time I would, she would say, you don't understand. It's not depression. He said, now I know what she was talking about. It was despair. And he had a handle on it. And ever since then, I've been studying, writing, pursuing. So that's the first thing. Here's a poem by Rumi that started my thinking about this and how I've been presenting this material at clinical conferences as well as general public conferences. And Rumi's poem goes like this. I haven't memorized it yet, so I'm going to have. Rumi says.
And John, I have it if you want me to put it up on the screen. Would you like it?
Oh, please. Good. Great. Yes. What a wonderful thing you are. Okay. Oh, there it is. Oh, James, you're like a wizard. I said, can the others see it, James?
Yes, everyone can see it.
Yes.
You can read it for us. We'd love it.
Wow, this is amazing. I said, what about my eyes? God said, keep them on the road. I said, what about my passion? God said, keep it burning. I said, what about my heart? God said, tell me what you hold inside it. I said, pain and sorrow. He said, stay with it. The wound is the place where the light comes in. And so the thing that he said is, tell me what you hold inside. And the moment I heard that, I went, despair is what I hold inside. Again.
Excellent. Okay. So thank you for the story, John. Since we're going to be talking about depression, we're also going to be talking about anxiety. What I'd like to do is start out with some breakout rooms, which means you're going to get to connect up with someone else. And you're going to start with, my name is, I'm here because, and what I hope to gain from this webinar is blank. You're going to get about 2 minutes each, so we're going to give you 6 minutes, and I will send you a note each time it's time to change. And then you're going to interact with the 2 or 3 people that are in that room and just watch for when it's time to switch. I'll keep the time for you. And then when it's time to come back in 6 minutes, I will call you all back. I'll give you a 1-minute warning, and you all will automatically just come back into this room. But open all those rooms, and if you can all join, then you will get to have a breakout room experience. John, Sanji, you're going to get to talk directly with John. This is actually a wonderful opportunity because, John, do you remember I mentioned that I did some facilitation yesterday?
Oh, yeah.
This is the man that I facilitated.
Oh,
Wow.
So if you two can have this conversation. I'm going to go, somebody's called me to a breakout room. I'm going to go help them out, and you guys can have a conversation right now, okay?
Okay, do I have to do anything on my end?
You're just going to talk with John, and he's going to go through these questions with you, and maybe you can share them as well.
Oh, great. I can't see the name.
I'm Lindsay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey, Lindsay.
Hi there, John.
Yes, welcome to our little room. I can't believe I'm in this room and a virtual room. And
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yes, this is so good. Are you doing okay?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. How are you doing? Did you have a good Christmas?
I had a breakthrough Christmas. Let's put it that way.
That's good. That's good.
John, was there anything else you wanted to say to me while we have each other?
Well, I'm just interested in making sure I can continue on my journey to understanding myself better, be more intelligent, emotionally intelligent, and be able to understand it and understand its meanings and be able to move forward and not be paralyzed by it.
Well, you got, as I said, a great facilitator in James to help you with that.
Mm-hmm. We have a nice men's group with several, of course, we call them magicians, people who facilitate. And we have several people who are pretty good at that. And James, of course, is higher on our list.
Lindsay, you have anything to say while we're in this little room together?
Well, I can just share from the questions. I am here because I want to learn more about the nature of anxiety and depression and understand different ways to come out of it and also to help other people come out of it because I'm a coach as well. I like opening up the dialogue and also the way that depression is looked at because I don't think that it has to be this heavy sentence that a lot of people think that they're doomed because they feel depressed or are depressed or have been depressed for a while. I think that there's so many more ways to look at it and to work with it that I really am interested in learning more about. So.
Well, great, because that's my plan too. The material that I'm going to present tonight in a short form, and then on Sunday, in longer form. There's no material out there, and like what I'm going to tell you some stuff about tonight. So
that's great.
Hopefully it'll be useful. I spent a lot of time working on it.
Yeah, I'm really excited, just even to help people understand that they have more control than they probably think they have in coming out of that depression. So help tap into that. Thank you.
Great. You're calling everybody back in now?
I am calling everybody back in. They're all coming back from their breakout rooms. So we're all back from the breakout rooms. I hope you got a chance to talk with everyone. I do want to just let you know that when we get to the end, we are going to make sure we share information about the workshop, but this is really now we're at the bulk of the talk, and that is with John sharing information about this content. And I know, John, you have a new book, and this is really what you're working with. If you can kind of share a little bit more about depression and despair and anxiety and fear, we're all ears.
Well, yeah, the book hopefully will be out in 2017. It's called, you may find this odd, but it's called Where Do I Go From Her? And the subtitle is From Loss to Love. And this coincided when I started working with this, was with my very amicable and loving divorce of 17 years of marriage. And that was sort of a catalyst to do this material. So let me get started, I guess, now a little bit, and then you'll ask me some questions.
Correct.
Or should we do that now?
What I'd love is to hear more about, what do you mean when you say that, you know, sometimes depression is misdiagnosed, that it's actually despair?
Okay, good. 8 out of 10 people, and this is the most reliable statistics we have, 8 out of 10 people get no benefit from pharmacology with serotonin reuptake inhibitors and or therapy. If they do one by themselves or they combine them, 8 people say they still don't feel any relief. And that was true for me too, personally, that I just didn't get relief from years ago from depression. So I wanted to explore that a little bit. Let me give you some thoughts and quotes that I've written down that will explain this a little bit better, and then I'll give my own definition. But before I do, I'm going to give you 2 lines from the great, great poet Mary Oliver. Do you folks know Mary Oliver's poems? She's one of the greatest poets living today, but she says in one of her poems, she says, "Tell me about your despair, and I'll tell you about mine." And that's what animated me a little bit. Then David White. Do you folks know David White poet? God, he's so good. He says, "I want to know if you belong or feel abandoned, if you can know despair or see it in others." Despair is the place we go to retreat and reassess ourselves. It's a place where if we go there, if we allow ourselves to be taken there, despair will rid us of our false selves and our personas that we've created over the years. Whereas depression is either biochemically induced or circumstantially and situationally induced. And despair is something that comes on us, and it's like it doesn't have a source. Despair is the first stage of freedom and entrance to us being more real and genuine. And see, people who are in depression, I've said to them in counseling and therapy, you know, tell me about it. And every time, most of the time, they'll be telling me about despair. So I'm going to keep going for another minute or two, James, and you interrupt me at any time, okay? So despair, well, this is a big part of the book. Despair is about, as I said, stripping away. And depression is about taking in medication, taking in therapy, and despair is like stripping away. And one of the major things that I say in my book is every time we go into despair, not depression, but every time we go into despair, each time is a mystical attempt to try to bring us to who we were meant to be all along. And depression keeps us from that. So one of the things that I'm saying in this crazy book is you may not be suffering from depression. You may be suffering from despair. And if you are, it's a mystical attempt to bring you to the self and to the person you were always meant to be. And you know what? It's one of the most uncomfortable places you'll ever be. And so what happens is people don't want to be in that place. They go to their psychiatrist or psychologist. They get medication. They get therapy to try to get out of the place. And they don't have a lot of luck. Despair is the great friend to transformation. Depression is its greatest enemy. I got despair is a necessary and seasonal state of repair. And that's a key point that I want to get across. It's a necessary place where you go to repair. If we refuse to go to that place, then we may experience even more depression than we have. Here's one source of despair. This is from a quote by John Burnside. He says, quote, "Nothing I know matters more than what never happened." So let me just boil it down, and then I'm going to turn it over to James for questions, I hope, but I got plenty of material here. But despair is this is who I am, and this is what I thought I would be. This is what I achieved, and this is what was expected of me to achieve. And despair is this valley in between these two places. Does that make sense, everybody? Am I making sense at all on this? You have to understand, even though I'm teaching this material, I'm still looking at my notes when I give clinical presentations in general public, because I'm still sort of stretching it out. Despair is the result of the risks not taken. Despair is caused by self-betrayal and giving up on one's desires. Now let me pause there and see what we do.
Thank you. So I just wanted to encapsulate kind of what I heard you say. I heard you say that depression is situational, circumstantial, biochemical. And therefore, right, if depression is situational, then therapy or then changing the situation should alleviate the depression. And therapy should help to do that. If it's biochemical, then pharmaceuticals should correct that. And so if you're trying either one of those, therapy or pharmaceuticals, and it's not helping, then there's a possibility it might be despair rather than depression that you're suffering from.
Wonderfully put. You nailed it.
I also heard, you talking about despair and depression and there being a gap between, what I heard was how life shows up and my experience of it. And I'm wondering, because in my coaching, what I see about despair is that it's an inability to find meaning.
Yes.
And that depression is an aversion to the emptiness that one feels when one isn't finding meaning. Or it's an aversion to the feelings that are in that emptiness, in that despair. And that gap you talk about is the refute, and the people, the clients I work with, oftentimes what we're doing is helping them to tolerate more discomfort so they can actually stay in the despair. I'm an applied methodologist, and a lot of what we work with is sitting in the duality between what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking and how life is showing up. Sitting in that long enough for something else to arise, some kind of meaning to come into the equation. And if depression is keeping me from going to that empty place, going to that gap and actually being in that emptiness, then I'm not allowing the meaning to occur.
Now that's wonderfully, in a nutshell, correct and beautifully said. And he said, and this is part of what I talk about in my book, despair is an empty place. And again, depression is about filling up a place. So that everybody who is in depression, that's why I say they either fill up with alcohol, drugs, sex addiction, work addiction. They fill themselves up to numb that pain, or they take pills to numb that pain, or they take therapy to numb that pain. But 8 out of 10 people report no response to the therapy or the pills. I'm going to say this, and this is where it gets kind of tricky, but I'm going to say it straight out. Depression is a psychological sickness, and despair is a spiritual condition. Everybody hear that?
Yeah.
Hear the difference? This is why I have always tried to integrate the spiritual in my practice and in my teaching. But until I entered despair and stayed with it, I realized that I hadn't integrated spirituality nearly to the degree that despair is calling for.
So
James?
I appreciate that, because I know when I'm working with clients, one of the questions I often ask is, what is being asked of you in this? What is being asked of me in order to move forward in my life? What is this situation or obstacle asking of me? And so I'm wondering, you're pointing to a truth of, in despair, what is being asked of you, and you're pointing the way to some type of a spiritual transformation, some type of a spiritual discovery. And I'm wondering if you can talk more about that. And I'd also love to hear more about the self-betrayal that is inherent in this.
That's one of the biggest ones that I have to say. Sadly, because of the need to raise a family and to make money and to pay bills that we all have to do, we don't have much time left over to contemplate these issues. And so we end up not doing, not becoming this thing, or now here's the other side. We are holding on to something. We're holding on to something that inside ourselves that demands to be released, and we won't do it. Now, folks, I'm going to ask you real directly, what do you hold inside you that no matter how much therapy you get, no matter how many workshops you attend, you still won't let go of it? What is that thing? I had several things that I realized in the last 3 or 4 years that I'd been holding on to all my life. And the divine request was made to let it go. And I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. And that caused me a lot of pain. Let me see if I can give you a couple more thoughts. How are we doing on time, James? Okay, looks like I'm doing okay.
It's 7:42. I'm wanting to, I do want to leave time, so I want to put people back in breakout groups to answer
okay.
What is it that you won't let go of? And also, just kind of for them to be able to talk about what they've been hearing so far. So if there's anything else specific that you'd like to give them to chat about, this is the time to do that.
Well, when we come back out of that, those breakout rooms, then I'll go into the differences between anxiety and fear. How about that?
Okay, sounds good. Then that's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and I'm going to open these rooms, and then
let me just say one quick thing regarding despair. The question why I'm in despair is the most useless question you'll ever ask. The question is that will ultimately bring you out of despair. And I'm going to give you some solutions, by the way, certainly a few tonight and then the rest at the workshop. But the question that will get you out of despair is, how did I get here? And what is the road home?
yes, what is being asked of me? Absolutely. So, a lot of my work is about asking better questions, because we often ask questions that just keep us in circles. So you've given us some better questions to ask ourselves. And so as you go into the breakout groups, I want you to answer what do you hold inside of you that you won't let go of? What are you unwilling to release or unwilling to face, unwilling to admit? And the other question you had was, if you can just say that question again.
What did you desire in your life that you have not been able to achieve or go to? And what kept you from attaining that desire?
Jot those down or hold them in your memory. And I'm going to open these rooms. We're just going to give 2 minutes each. So we'll do 6 minutes again, and then I'll call you back. And it's important that we give you a chance to talk this through, because that's how this work happens. John, are you still here?
Yep, I'm here.
What do you hold inside of you that you won't let go of?
Gotcha. Yeah, that's an easy one for me, I think. It's what I was taught all my life. And that's to do with my religion and views toward marriage and faithfulness.
And so you have some definite messages there that you've had a hard time letting go of.
Right. One time, always, and forever. To be a failure at that, to be a failure your whole life.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing. We're going to go ahead and go around the circle with that. We're going to go to Lindsay, sharing also about what do you hold inside of you that you won't let go of?
I think that's a really good question. And the first thing that came to me was unworthiness. It seems that's something that I've been struggling with a lot of my life. And I come back to that I've made progress, but it seems to just keep coming back in different forms. Yeah, there's definitely a urging from the universe, from the divine, to let go of it so that I can create, live bigger, help more people, do more things, that type of thing. Just expand in my consciousness, because unworthiness is not my truth.
We're going to go to Susan. Susan, what we're doing here is talking about despair. And at the core of despair is this something that we're not wanting to let go of or not wanting to face in ourselves. Would you like to share at this point? And you can pass if you like, since you just joined.
I'm really interested, and I've been thinking about it, but I'll just pass right now.
Okay, thank you.
I'll definitely join in at some point.
Yes. So I think the next question on that was, the way I have always said it is, what's being asked of me? And I think the way he said it was something about, what's the way forward in this? And so we'll go to John Sanji. John, what's the way forward for you? Or what's being asked of you?
I think what's being asked is to throw away the old messages given to me by others and to develop new messages that make sense to me.
Excellent. So you see how your situation and this resistance that you've had is actually showing you the way. It's like the wound is where the light is, as John.
Yeah, exactly. The process that you facilitated with me yesterday fits right into everything he's been saying. In fact, I took a lot of notes here, and it really bears truth to what I've been doing.
Thank you. Thank you. And Lindsay, your turn.
What was the question one more time?
So how I say it is, what is being asked of you? How John said it was, what's the way forward? Or how are you to move through this unworthiness that you've been unwilling to let go of?
That's a really good question. I think if I had the answer, I wouldn't still have this, because I've done a lot of work. And I think what lately has been occurring for me is the power of gratitude in general for everything, for my life and for myself as well. I think that's just the best way to keep the unworthiness or kind of that belief at bay, and doing affirmations that I deserve these things, and working on fear as well. And I think that those can kind of go hand in hand.
Thank you. And I love how you're showing how the situation that you're in of feeling unworthy, even though we get stuck in it, it shows what's needed. Gratitude is what's needed, because that moves you right out of that unworthiness.
Yeah.
So thank you. Lindsay messaged me privately asking me, what is it that I have been resisting letting go of? And I know what it is for me. It's been seeking validation outside of myself. How it's been difficult for me when I've felt criticized or when I felt judged. There's a way that I give way too many fucks about what people think of me. And that clearly shows the way for me of sourcing from my own truth, sourcing from my own center, grounding in myself and my own truth. Susan, I'm going to call everybody back, but you have 1 more minute if you have anything you'd like to share.
I'm in the middle of a transition period for myself. Like this life, I'm looking at starting a new business. I've actually just started a new business, and I'm in a state of flux as to whether I really want to, whether I want to go forward with it, whether I really want to be successful with it, or whether I just really want to not do anything and just travel and do something different with my life. Because even though I know I've got more to offer in what I do, whether is really my prime focus, or whether my prime focus is really looking at more about supporting me and exactly where I want to be and what I want to do and who I want to do it with, rather than doing more work for that I've done for years and years and years. So at some point I need to stop. So that's my struggle at the moment.
Transition is showing you that you have to choose. What do you really want? And you're being faced with that. What do I want in this transition?
Yes. Very much so. Very much so. And as much as I enjoy my work and what I have done in the past, and the whole spectrum of ups and downs and successes and failures, it is very much, what do I want now? Do I want to keep going with that, or is there another path for me? Very much transition.
Carl Jung said, this is a paraphrase, but he says, if the second half of our life looks too much like the first half, we're way off track. We're doing something wrong. One of my most recent books is called The Half-Lived Life.
Mm-hmm.
Overcoming passivity and rediscovering our authentic self. James, we are running out of time, I know. So how can I best do this?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Susan. Sounds like to me like you're on the right track. Thank you, everyone else, for going into the breakout rooms, engaging with people and having conversations. John, what I'd like you to do is actually, if you can just wrap up with about 1 to 2 minutes on anxiety and fear, so that people can at least get a taste of that.
I'll be very quick. Here's a couple of things I'm going to say. This is a quote. If you don't know the Trappist monk Thomas Merton's work, I encourage you to look at it. He says, anxiety is the mark of spiritual insecurity. He says, anxiety is produced from being afraid to ask the right questions because they might turn out to have no answers. Anxiety is what summons us to become real. One more quote. Anxiety is a feeling of restlessness, a feeling that one has not finished something, or that one has to look for something. Fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous and likely to cause pain or threat. Now here's the big key part of this. Fear has an object. If you're afraid of flying, you can get coaching, take medication, get on the plane, and maybe overcome your fear. If you're afraid of the dark, it has an object. You turn on the light. Anxiety has no object. There's nothing that you can attach to it and correct, and then you'll be okay. Anxiety is a spiritual condition that's moving us towards the divine. And we use the words interchangeably. Therapists will say, oh, you're anxious, when they mean you're afraid, and vice versa. That's it. What do I do now, James? Talk about the workshop?
I'm going to share my screen. You may have already been invited to the workshop with John Lee on January 1st. I've actually went through and invited as many as I could. There are a few of you, though, that I couldn't invite for one reason or another because I'm not friends with. Some of you don't allow people to ask you to be my friend on Facebook. So if that's you, if you're somebody who doesn't allow somebody to be friends with you, if you could just write down this link up at the top, or I'll move this out of the way so you can see it, then that's where you can find the information, or you can do a screenshot. If you're on a Mac, a screenshot is Shift Command 3, or if you're on a PC, it's usually print screen next to the delete key, and you can just screen print this. But from noon to 6 p.m. on January 1st, I'll be there. John will be there. We would love to have you join us. We're going to be doing not just talking, but we're going to be doing facilitation as well. We're looking forward to having people out. John lives in Mentone, Alabama, and Austin, Texas, so he doesn't make it out to Kansas City, Lawrence area very often. So I would love to share him with you. John, I'd like to hear actually real quick from Casey. And Casey, you had something you wanted to add about what you love about John's work, perhaps, and then we're going to have John kind of wrap it up for us.
So in 2006, I was struggling with alcoholism. In 2006, I was going through this period, and I just thought, I've got to find something more than what's offered at just regular treatment centers. So I started this soul searching journey. And so the last 5 years, I've just continued on this path. And when I met John last fall in 2016, you started talking about the spiritual malady being the source of addictions. And it was just like when you started talking, John, I went, that's it. That is, you're saying what I've been trying to put words to for the last 9 years. And then, you were talking about just the unbecoming. And I thought, wow, how cool would it be if you just came and spoke to a group just as a member? And that's just kind of how it's all rolled out. And then tonight's webinar was just like even more, just bringing everything together. I'm just so excited.
Wow.
Thank you, Casey, for your service. I just want to, before I turn it over to John to wrap us up, I want to let you guys know if this kind of a webinar meets your needs and you want to be able to have community where you can hear new ideas and talk with people, if you go to transformationcircle.com, that is a private Facebook group that I host, and then I have a webinar tomorrow. Actually every day this week I have breakthrough circle coaching webinars. It's free to attend those. I'd love to have any of you guys join that. So it's transformationcircle.com. If you go to there, just ask to join the group and I'll approve you so that we can stay in touch. And you can be invited to the different webinars that we host and the different coaching that I do in this format. John, we're at time. If you can just kind of leave us with a thought. We really appreciate you coming on and doing this for us.
Well, I appreciate y'all, Casey and James, y'all setting it up. Casey, I'm glad that you've got some clarity out of this. Again, kind of still recovering from my illness and also just not really used to the format that much, even though I've done a few, and I hope, thanks to James, I'm going to do more. If you want to talk about this further, go to my website, johnleebooks.com, and be in touch, and we'll have a private conversation if you'd like. And on Sunday, I will have this much more organized and much more in my teacher shoes and shirts and stuff. So I want to thank you all for attending. I do hope it helped and that it was useful on some level. I'm going to give you a closing poem by Rumi, and it goes like this. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. The door is round and open, and people are going back and forth, crossing the door sill where this world and the other world touches. Don't go back to sleep. So now, if this is over, I am going to go to bed and go to sleep. Good night, y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hope to see you Sunday.
Thank you, John.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you. It's been enormously helpful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, folks, I'm going to go to bed. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
take care, John.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Everyone.
That was wonderful. I'm really looking forward to Sunday.
Oh, good. Are you coming?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
And I'm going to look up your website too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Transformationcircle.com. We'd love to have you a part of our group.
I wrote it down.
Excellent.
I wrote it down. I wrote it down too, James. I'll come through your website as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, this was really delightful. I appreciate it so much. I learned so much.
So I must say this is my very first webinar
Oh, wonderful. We'll have
ever.
happy
Anything.
webinars to you. Thanks for
Well,
joining from Australia. Wonderful.
From Perth, Western Australia.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is my first
Hang
webinar.
on.
Her lady was from Australia too.
Well, we have a webinar tomorrow. If you're interested, tomorrow at noon Central Time. It's a breakthrough coaching webinar. I'm doing it with Casey Henry. And it's basically 7 tools to transform your life. So if you're interested, we'd love to have you on. We'll also be doing some one-on-one coaching. So
That's transformationcircle.com.
yeah, if you go to transformationcircle.com, then I will approve you into the private group, and then you'll be able to see where I post the information about the webinar. It's a place for people who are interested in making breakthroughs in their life and learning tools. You know, we do inner child work and we do self-love work and attune your presence tools that allow you to be able to really focus your attention in specific ways that help to nurture breakthroughs. So
Right.
it's part of my work. And it's the way that I offer, that's the free level of offering, and then I also do courses.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Thanks, James.
Okay, bye, Casey.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.